Hi, welcome back, or welcome if you're new. My name is Nicole and this is my vegetable garden. It's complete chaos. Come on in. I've come prepared with a stack of bowls and a cat because I haven't done a good harvest out here in about a week, other than a few things for supper here and there. But we're getting 2 full days of rain, so I'd really like to try to pick it clean. I thought I'd make a bit of a hedge out of marigolds this year, and that has sort of worked. I lost a few here and there. Hi, Molly. I started out with 2 at the end of each row. I'm kind of glad I lost a few, or I wouldn't have been able to get into the vegetable garden from the front. That tomato took out 1 of the plants, but lots of different colors and flower structures adds a lot of interest and brings in some pollinators too. On the far left, I did have some spring vegetables, but when those came out, I planted some flowers. There are some cosmos, I forget the variety. These were all things I grew from seed. But the most exciting is the Van Gogh Mix Sunflower collection from Sunflower Steve. Now these poor things I planted in seed trays because I was nervous about direct seeding them. They fell over, they got completely root bound, but are still flowering. So. They are just starting to open. There's some single ones, there's some double ones. This one definitely has to be my favorite so far. This poor one has fallen over, but is still desperately trying to reach the light. And still a few more to come too. A few reblooming delphiniums. I cut these to the ground maybe a month ago. And a whole bunch of self-seeded calendula in between the weeds. I'm actually going to rip these out. This is supposed to be a pathway. But it's September, it's always a little bit chaotic, pretty much everywhere in this garden. And I'm starting in the back corner because it's shady. The front corner, the front half is still very much in the sun, and the sun is hot. But these large trees, which are right on the property line, start to cast some shade pretty soon after lunch. So it's 2 p.m. now, and it's come over about 6 feet of shade, and will continue to work its way forward until it hits the marigolds right now around 5 p.m., which is perfectly fine. In the peak of the season, we probably get at least 12 hours of sunlight on the majority of this garden. Right along the property line, we've got about a 6-foot strip where we dump all of our compost, because a compost pile is just something that I don't have time to manage. But this was a little bit of a low spot. It was full of weeds and it got really boggy. So by filling it with compost, if I want to extend the garden back here eventually, I will be able to do that, and it'll be nice, rich soil. These little tomato cages, actually they're big tomato cages, but they're small for cucumber trellises, which is what I've been using them for. These are my pickling cucumbers. And up until now, I haven't really been getting enough over the course of a week to actually make dill pickles. And I was going to rip these out, but it looks like we're actually getting some really gorgeous ones. So I'm going to give myself one last chance to actually make dill pickles. I used to make quite a few, but it's been a couple of years, just because I've sucked at growing the cucumbers. But one last try. Looks like we have enough for a couple of jars, and dill pickles are easy to make just a couple of jars at a time. So I would hate to waste them when they're actually really nice. And they'll keep in the fridge for a little while you collect more. But I had them in the fridge for about a week and a half, and then they were starting to look a little bit sad. This is bigger than I like. This is what I'd prefer, but of course when you pick them small, you need way more of them. That's definitely enough for 1, maybe 2 jars. And I counted probably twice this much that are just a little bit too small. So as long as I come out here in the next 3 or 4 days and get the rest, then they should be a perfect size. I shouldn't forget that my kids' little garden has a whole bunch of watermelons in it, and a bunch of them we've been watching for quite a while. It's really hard to tell if these are ripe. I've been waiting for the stem to turn a little bit brown. The tendril is definitely dried up. That's one sign. And it's not really yellow on the other side, so I'm going to wait a little bit longer. This is the first one that grew though, and this is sugar baby, so it doesn't get much bigger than that. But hey, this is Canada. I will definitely take a small watermelon over no watermelon. There's also a couple of purple Brussels sprouts in here. Nothing growing but foliage yet, but you can see where all of the Brussels sprouts will form when they're ready. There's also some peanuts, but they're not doing all that great. These are peanut plants right here, and I have noticed some holes. There's more watermelons. There's some quite substantial holes down there, so I think there might be something digging, and I don't know if we'll actually get peanuts, but I'm going to wait a few more weeks before we dig that up to find out. Next to the pickling cucumbers, we actually have some mini pumpkins, and that I'm very excited about. Look at the teeny tiny mini one. Not sure if this has time to properly grow. It's the beginning of September. We might have 6 weeks before our first frost. Lots of powdery mildew happening. I'm not super worried about that. There are tons of little mini pumpkins in there. Now this was a seed mix, so there was some white ones, there is a dark one, and there are some yellow-orange ones as well. Oh, I see one. Oh, look at it. That is adorable, and I have plans for these. I see 8, maybe even 9 good-sized ones right here, but I'm not 100% sure that they're ready, so I'm going to leave them. But that zucchini is definitely ready. Oh, a squash. I do have some butternut squash in here also. Those are definitely not going to get picked today. I don't think this clipper is going to do the trick. That might be enough. They are still coming. There's a little one. See if we can get this one too. This clipper's only made it halfway through, but it might be enough for a twist. Yes. I need 2 hands for this one. Oh, I did clip that one through. There we go. Psst. Holy, found some more, but I'm stuck. These yellow ones are delicious. Zucchini haul. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 zucchinis. There is a nice butternut squash under there. And there's another one. There's too many leaves in the way. These leaves are horrific looking. Yes, I know. This tends to happen every year. It's not really a pest issue. The powdery mildew, that's pretty normal. These spots may even be the start of powdery mildew. I'm not 100% sure. But if you look down at the brand new foliage, it's perfectly fine. This is just something that squash tends to do at the end of the season, especially if we've had a pretty wet summer, which we definitely have. That definitely looks pretty rough, but there's a lot of new foliage in there that looks just fine. Especially these growing tips look great. And there's a teeny tiny little butternut squash right there. I don't think that has the time to develop this late in the season. So what you can do is come through and cut these growing tips off. We'll divert a little bit more energy into the fruit that's already growing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I know you can't see them all that well. 6, 7. There's at least 7. That's fantastic. Now I planted all of these squash, the butternut squash, and I think I even have some acorn squash somewhere, because the deer kept eating the tops off of all my pepper plants. So I figured if the peppers didn't recover, I might as well stick some squash in between and let it completely take over the area, and then at least I'll have made good use out of that space. But then the peppers did recover, and you can see them sticking their little heads out from in between all of those squash leaves, and there are a lot of peppers under there. So that's accidentally worked out really, really well. I just found another butternut squash hanging from those marigolds, so we'll see how strong that plant is. Now, most of these peppers are green, and I'd really like them to turn red. So I'm going to grab a few, not all of them, but I'm going to have a good look in case there are any that are red. Or maybe orange. I thought there was 1 squash there. There's actually 3. What are we up to now? 10? These plants here are definitely the best. Did find a frisbee though. There, just a few. But some big ones coming. This is a nice, these are all sweet peppers. I'm not a big fan of spicy ones. So these are long. These ones I think are a bell pepper. And then we have the little lunchbox snack ones. And these turn orange. We've already had a few orange ones. They're definitely light. So they should turn soon, hopefully. Beautiful bell pepper, and I am not worried about the holes on the leaves. The fruit is just fine, and the plants are otherwise healthy. We've had a marigold casualty. That is a broken stem that has fallen over on, holy moly. Look at those tomatoes. This is a tiny little dwarf plant that I forgot was here. Ooh, nice. Little handful of cherry tomatoes for a snack later. Not bad for a plant I forgot existed. Now, speaking of tomatoes, these plants look pathetic. Those ones over there actually look a whole lot better. These ones fell over, they're near death, but those tomatoes are just fine. Now these ones, oh, hello spiderweb. This is Amish paste. Great for sauce. I've been making salsa. Not a lot. I'll be making another batch this weekend for sure. Guys, I found a frog. He's so cute. Look how little he is. Oh, dude, I'm sorry. He's the size of my thumbnail, maybe. Oh, it's so cute. Okay, sorry, dude. I'll leave you alone now. Okay, so I've picked everything that's at least half ripened. I'm unsure about these because with the rain we're supposed to be getting, they may split. I might come back and get these later. But first, I want to check on my other tomatoes. There are some Mayan Indian back here. There's some speckled Roman. Ooh, those don't look good. Those look like they've fallen off and gotten a little bit rotten. Yeah, these look like the speckled Romans. They are my favorite. Oh, there's a good one. This is not quite ripe. This will get a dark red when it's ripe. Beautiful paste tomato, slightly bigger than your average Romas. Oh, I think I found one. A little dirty, but that's okay. And this is small. It's about half the size, but at least it's ripe and not all busted up. I might actually have to pull these plants up to get those tomatoes off. I'm not sure I'm willing to do that yet. There's a few more of those speckled Roman. These are Mayan Indian. Good all-around paste tomatoes. We have to get the brandy wines next. They are completely out of control. Look at this thing. Oh, that's taken a whole stem. That is beautiful. I don't care what the top looks like. This is a gigantic tomato. And I think there's a few more. There's almost no point in a bowl. I might be able to fit 2 more of them in there. These aren't quite as ripe, but we'll take them anyway. Found a few more paste tomatoes, and I think that's going to be it for the tomatoes, at least for today. That is a pretty good collection so far. Now, the big basket is for tomatillos. If you've never grown tomatillos before, these things are really cool. They are very prolific, and they make a really good green salsa. A lot more acidic than your regular tomatoes. Let's see if I can find a good one. Oh, I think I see a good one. Okay, this isn't the biggest one I've harvested so far, but you can see what happens. The green tomatillo inside grows big enough to bust open this husk. So here's the end of one of the stems. This one, the papery husk gets a little bit bigger first, and then the tomatillo inside, I'm going to sacrifice this one, is just little. But it will grow until it busts open this green husk. The problem is it goes everywhere. It's completely taken over some beets, some carrots, some squash and pumpkins back there even. I can't even get to the eggplant, which is fine because I rarely end up using the eggplants. So what I'm actually going to do is pull up all these plants, take all the good fruit, and we'll make a nice batch of salsa, and this will be done. Oh, there's some good ones. I also already have a big bowl of these in the fridge, so this will definitely be enough. Okay, that's officially full. So that's done. I ripped out all the tomatillos. I filled my basket and then some. That's 4 or 5 batches of salsa maybe. That might even be more than we use. But now we can actually get to all of those mini pumpkins that are planted behind it. There are some more pumpkins, quite a few white ones. There's at least 2 dozen more in this giant mess of foliage back here. It's the only thing. What have we not seen yet? My little bean trellis. I think I mixed up some seeds because some of these are climbing beans. Obviously, that one's for me. That would be a tomato coming from the row next to it. Loads of beans. But some of them are shorter little yellow bush beans. I got quite a few of these yesterday, actually. I think I got all of the yellow ones. Lots of these green ones, though. With beans, definitely worth picking them when it's dry out, because if we pick beans when they're wet, then they're going to rust and not be much good to you after that. We'll see if we can get a couple of days worth of dinners. Although, honestly, these don't usually make it till dinner because the kids just eat them, which is fine. If they're going to steal snacks from the kitchen, might as well be vegetables. It might as well be free. Oh, found some yellow ones. Beans. Let's see. I can go there. Oh, I found more tomatillos. I couldn't leave them behind. That is pretty good, but we are not done. Pretty soon we'll get all of these watermelons. Hopefully we'll get Brussels sprouts. There are a ton of peppers, a ton of butternut squash. There's a little one peeking there. We've got a bunch of mini pumpkins over there. That's the kids' sandbox, just covered up because of local creatures. Oh, those marigolds are nice. There are still so many green tomatoes. So those aren't going anywhere yet. We've got some things planted for fall. There are some cauliflower, although I do have to come in and pick off some caterpillars. Had I been organized enough to net these, that could have fixed that problem. But hand picking them off works too, it just takes longer. There are actually eggplants back there behind the beans. I'm gonna have to come out with another bowl, I think. I see quite a few back there, but they're not all that big yet. So I think I'm gonna leave the eggplants. This is where I got the yellow squash. Another little tiny one. There's a ton of baby pumpkins back here too. Those are the same seeds as I had over by the pickling cucumbers. There's lots of white ones and lots of those dark green ones. There's a nice dark one. So these are nice small pumpkins, and I make dried flour pumpkins for fall sales out of these, and the white ones sell really well, so I'm glad to have so many of those. There's some of the orange, another white, another orange, beautiful. There's just a little bit of direct seeded cilantro that wasn't growing much because the tomatoes have overtaken them a bit. I'm gonna have to take out some of these plants. There's also some golden beets coming up behind these tomatoes. So some of these squash might need to move over a little tiny bit. So that is basically the main vegetable garden. And I say main vegetable garden because I have some random things growing in other places around the yard. And chaotic as it is, it's producing a ton of food right now, and that makes me so happy. Now down in the cutting garden, it's mostly flowers. I'm getting a gorgeous second flush from all of the feverfew. Hello, Molly. And the fall asters and the gomphrena are just starting. So the asters are gorgeous, but they do have a tendency to rot in wet summers. So this one looks like it's just about had it. So those plants are going to come out. And actually that one too, there are quite a few good ones. The gomphrena is always gorgeous. This is QIS Carmine. That one here, and this one is orange. I forget if it's QIS. QIS stands for quality in seed. Woo, those tomatillos did a number on my hands. And in this bed where I planted my celosia, I found a self-seeded cherry tomato, which is great because I didn't plant many of those. So this definitely looks like a sun gold, which I did have last year. I have a kale, which I've been removing the bottom leaves just to let the celosia grow. Don't need any of that right now. I just come out and get it as needed. But let's get these sun golds. This is completely free. It's self-seeded right here. I didn't plant it, just came up all on its own. I just put in a couple of stakes once it got to a good size. I think these are gonna have to go in my pocket. I've got my gorgeous Meyer lemon tree that I grew from seed. This thing I think is 5 years old. We had a windstorm that blew it over. That's why the bricks. And it still hasn't flowered. but it's loving life this year. I'm hopeful to get some flowers at some point, but it is seed grown. This is new this year. I have a beautiful yellow rose. I love this so much. This is, I don't actually know what this tomato is called. It desperately needs, this is why I don't plant tomatoes in pots, because they just need so much water. And I don't always remember to do that. I don't remember the variety of these. Chocolate something maybe, Cherokee purple. And this is a wisteria, which I have big plans for, but more on that later. More tomatoes from my tomato pocket. The cutting garden has been left to its own devices since I finished up with farmers markets. You can see the cosmos desperately need deadheading. This row has some basil, but it's mostly basil to use in cut flowers. This is cardinal basil, which produces a beautiful red flower head, a little bit like celosia. I cannot wait to see that bloom. And I also have some Mrs. Burns citrus lemon basil on this side. You can tell the stems of this cardinal basil is dark red. I do have a fig tree over here, which actually survived the winter. We're zone 6, and it sat in this pot, in this exact spot, all winter, which is miraculous, only because I forgot about it. I didn't protect it or bring it in the greenhouse, but it survived. That tiny little fig doesn't look, oh no, it's rotten. Oh, there's one though. Little fig. This is a large cherry, which we got some this year, but the raccoons got most of them. So we mentioned my lemon, but forgot to show you my lime. These are just baby fruits. This one I didn't start from seed, this one I bought. There's a couple of unopened flowers right there. This thing is flowering a ton. It wasn't really that happy in the house this winter, but it's been really enjoying life outside. So it also likes to be a little bit root bound, so I'm not going to pot it up, but I'm keeping it well fed. But then inside the greenhouse, this is something I've already harvested, but we have a bunch of onions, just regular yellow onions. I'm doing all my seeds starting for fall. These are mostly cut flowers, some succulents, some cuttings. These seed trays look bare, but most of the seeds are just starting to germinate. But there's some garlic too. Now this did dry on these racks right here, but I bumped them a little bit when I brought out these seed trays. There's also a tray full of turmeric, which should not still be in the tray. That's just something that I never ever got to. So yes, the turmeric did really well and grew nicely. It's just incredibly root bound and should not still be in that tray. And behind the greenhouse, we have more pumpkins. There is one. I don't know what variety that is. It's too young. But in here, I have my special ones. We have Blaze, and there's at least a dozen of those in here. And then we've got this beautiful orange one. There's compared to the Blaze, it's definitely bigger. There's a much larger one over there that I can't quite get to. Same thing, a lot of the leaves are starting to look pretty sad, but the newest foliage looks lovely. That's a lighter colored one. I don't know what that is. Then we have corn, just for fun, and I don't think this is edible. I forgot, but I think the corn that we have is an ornamental corn. So we'll know that, you know what? I wasn't planning on doing this today, but that silk is brown. Oh. Okay, let's see how this worked. I haven't checked for corn earworms. They're not very colorful. I think for ornamental, I'm officially supposed to let this dry out on the plant. I might have done this too early, but I really want to see what it looks like. Yes, I'm dumping all these on the ground. Counts as mulch. That's disappointing. So there, we have a plain old regular ear of corn, but at least the raccoons didn't get these ones. So these pumpkins are behind the greenhouse. Wasn't sure how well they do because there is a little bit of shade, but the corn is basically a living fence. Pumpkins are just taking the space, a little bit like a Three Sisters garden. So this one I think is a Musc de Provence. I'm very excited about that one. It's going to turn orange when it's ripe. And there is another one right below this, this shrub. Those are supposed to be really good eating pumpkins. I think those are the only 2 of those, although who knows what there could be in amongst all of that mess. And you can see this is very much a work in progress. We have 4 brand new apple trees planted in a square right there. We're working our way through with the mulch to get rid of all of the grass just up until we hit those 6 blueberry bushes. So they're a little bit of fruit too. I do like to have a lot of edible treats in the yard, but we're gonna mulch all the way over. I had hoped to get that done this week, but that did not happen. Okay, I'm officially hot and tired. It's sunny over here, but the vegetable garden is completely in the shade right now. I'm gonna add my little surprise ear of corn to our harvest. Almost forgot about my pocket tomatoes. Let's see, those will go in there. Holy moly. So this garden consists of 8 rows. They're about 20 feet long each. I don't know the total square footage. It's been no dig for about 5 years now. No expensive raised beds, just a little bit of compost and manure that I bought the first couple of years. This year I'm hoping is the last year I have to actually add anything. I've got a decent sized compost just behind the garden that I'm going to use to cover. Once everything's all out, I'm going to spread a layer of compost or manure, I am tired, and tarp it for the winter. That is my plan. That's what I usually do. But it just goes to show you that you can grow a lot of food without a serious financial input. Everything was grown from seed, I think. I bought the Brussels sprouts. It does take a little bit of time, it does take a little bit of an effort, but you can grow a significant amount of food with very little financial input, just a little bit of hard work and a good sturdy shovel. I'm getting a harvest like this about once a week, and except the tomatillos, they're pretty much done. But everything else, the pumpkins are really going to start to ramp up. Once I harvest those, that's going to be probably a bigger pile than all this put together. So stay tuned. Do you want me to do this again in a couple of weeks? Let me know down in the comments. We are in Nova Scotia, Zone 6, if I hadn't mentioned that before. For those of you who are new, please leave a comment and tell me where you're watching from. I'd be grateful if you would hit like and subscribe too, for lots more content coming up. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.